everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. I am your host, John, and today on the channel, we're going to be counting down the top 10 films that examine social issues. And this is also a top 10 list chosen by our channel bankroll member, Mr. Smelly Potato. So if you are a channel bankroll member, not only do you get your own choice review each and every single month, every other month I will do a video of your choosing. This is what Mr. Smelly Potato happened to choose for March of 2026. And just remember, guys, this is 100% my opinion, and I always want to hear your opinion as well down in the comments section. So let me know what you think are the top 10 films that are examining social issues. And I don't like to waste too much of your time up top, so we're going to get right into it with number 10. And at number 10 is a little film you've probably heard of called 12 Angry Men. The 1957 version, directed by Sidney Lumet, is the first film that Sidney Lumet actually directed. It's based on a 1954 teleplay, and this one's been readapted so many times. You've probably seen a version of this somewhere where they're always adapting this into a play because it's a very famous play at that. It's a very famous screenplay. It's a very famous film. It stars Henry Fonda, Lee J. Cobb, and so many other great actors. It's dealing with our judicial system and prejudice, and it's just human nature in general. It's exploring so much. It seems like a very open and shut case. We see the person who's on trial at the very beginning. It's the only time we ever see it. Other than that, they just go in one room. It's really hot out on this day, and for everyone in the room except for Henry Fonda, this seems like a pretty open and shut case. All the evidence points to this kid committing murder, but Henry Fonda's like, guys, we got to explore this a little bit more. Like, we just want to get out of here. Like, one guy wants to go to a baseball game, and again, it's really fucking hot, and that just makes people want to get out of anything. I know that. I hate being hot as well, so all these people just want to get out of there. They don't want to be in this room. And it seems like a pretty open and shut case, but Henry Fonda's like, no, I'm not. It's not going to be unanimous because I'm not voting for this. I don't think that he's guilty. But even if he is guilty, I think we should explore the evidence a little bit more. And it's basically them breaking down the entire case and showing us actually what could have been, because when you convict somebody of a crime, you have to believe without a shadow of a doubt that they actually committed that crime. And Henry Fonda's pointing out all the flaws in this case, and at each turn he's trying to turn one more person to his side, which might be the right side. Like, is this guy actually guilty? Until eventually at the very end, of course, everybody comes over and says that this guy's more than likely not guilty. But it's exploring our judicial system and, pretense prejudices about a person, how they are. Like, many people will perceive a person to be guilty just based on, surface level stuff, like the color of their skin, their sexuality, where they came from. A lot of stuff that we still face today in 2026, which is really scary. This movie's now almost 70 years old, and we're still dealing with these issues, and that's what makes this movie still very significant today in 2026. And it just shows, like, our judicial system is very flawed, because people will just find somebody guilty just because they're being inconvenienced. They don't want to be inconvenienced. And even our judicial system, as far as selecting our jury, is kind of flawed. And it's all showing that to you in this movie. It still holds up so well. It's still one of the all-time great films. There's a reason why this was selected to the National Library of Congress for being culturally significant. So this is definitely one, if you've never seen it, I can highly recommend checking out. And like I said, the issues that it's dealing with is issues that we're still dealing with to this very day. And at number 9, I got Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. This one came out in 2019. This one is a Best Picture winner. Bong Joon-ho not only directed this film, but he also co-wrote this film. It's a Korean drama film dealing with class. And even though this is a Korean film, you can apply this to any country, I imagine, that has the separation of classes, where it seems like the rich, they're always enjoying their life, while people down at the bottom are literally suffering. And in this movie, these people are literally suffering because, based on where their house is, it's getting flooded. They're literally at the bottom, while the rich family in this movie, they're living this luxurious life. And of course, eventually they're going to cross paths, where this Korean family that we're following at the very beginning, starts getting jobs working for this family. And about the halfway point of the movie, a third family gets involved, and that's one of the great movie twists of all time, because I remember being in the theater and just being surprised as hell about that. And this is something that's always bothered me, and that's why I had to have this movie on the list, is because it's very frustrating to see how the rich people also perceive the lower class citizens. Meanwhile, we are the consumers. We are the people that are allowing them to be as rich as they are. Unfortunately, with something here in America we're always dealing with, is like, capitalism and socialism. What is better? I always find that there's a fine line somewhere in the middle. Most things operate in the gray area, but of course the rich people are always going to push for capitalism because they're the ones benefiting from it. And we see how these people benefit from, everybody else. Like, all these people have to work for them, and they're just barely getting by. Like, this is something when one guy is smelling the other guy, and he's always like, even like later in the movie, he's still holding his nose because he can't handle the smell. It's like, that guy has to live that way, and you don't even appreciate him at all. You don't see these people as human beings. You're just happy in your own little world. And the movie is so well made. A very well deserving Best Picture winner. I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first non-English film to ever win Best Picture. Well deserved. It's a fantastic film. All the acting performances are so well done, and it's beautifully shot. Bong Joon-ho, of course, is one of our great directors, and he's always dealing with social issues in most of his films, so you can go back and watch any of them. We're just very tempted to put Snowpiercer on this movie, another movie that's dealing with class, but I do believe that Parasite is the best of his films. Even Mickey 17 that came out last year, not a great film, but still dealing with social issues in there as well. Definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it, but this one I still believe is Bong Joon-ho's best film. There's a reason why it won Best Picture.
Whoa! Whoa! If you fight anyone, who would you fight?
Shatner.
Next up, Fight Club, and this one you had to know was going to be on the list. This is one of David Fincher's masterpieces, came out in 1999, and this is one that we're still talking about to this very day. Obviously, most people probably remember the twist ending at this movie with Brad Pitt. You know, it features him and Ed Norton in this movie in the leading roles, but also Meatloaf pops up in here, and a young Jared Leto. I mean, the cast is pretty stacked overall. It's dealing with such issues as consumerism, toxic masculinity. All of that is wrapped up in here, how we're manipulated by all the stuff that we have, as I'm surrounded by all of my stuff that I bought, surrounded by all my movies and TVs and computers, but that's what controls us. That's what keeps us going. Like, we go to our mundane jobs, the jobs we hate going to, so we can buy the stuff to make us happy. That's how they keep us in a cycle. That's why credit card debt is a real thing, and why they push all that on you, why I get scam calls every day for a $70,000 loan that I know isn't real. It's because they want to lock you into the system. And what does that do? That's what holds us back, are the material items that we possess. But it's also dealing with toxic masculinity, as this guy and all these other men in this movie, they join a fight club to get all their anger and aggression out, and before they know it, they're in a cult. Cults are really at the forefront right now, and as they've been for many, many years. You know, people are always looking to be surrounded by people who feel similar to them, and also looking for that sense of community, to be around other people. A lot of people end up being alone, and that loneliness can also drive you to do some pretty insane things. So all of that is being dealt with in this masterpiece of a film. It's David Fincher, so you know this movie looks damn good. So we are getting a 4K steelbook of this pretty soon. This is a physical media channel, so I have to bring up that beautiful looking 4K steelbook that's coming out. But the performances are also so well done. One of Brad Pitt's best performances. Even though he's an Academy Award winner now, I still feel like he's been very undervalued and underappreciated throughout his entire career, because most people just wrap him up as a, you know, pretty boy. But he's so much more than that. And Edward Norton, another guy that a lot of people love, but, you know, very hard to work with. But you can't deny his performance in this movie. So it's one of those films that you absolutely must see, and all the issues that it's dealing with are still issues that we do deal with today as well.
What did you expect?
Next up, another Best Picture winner, and this one was a controversial Best Picture winner because it wasn't announced that. It was announced as La La Land first, and then they're like, oh, we fucked up. It's actually Moonlight, directed by Barry Jenkins, who also wrote this film. Mahershala Ali also won an Academy Award for this film, one of 2 Academy Awards Mahershala Ali would win, and it's dealing with a young black man. We actually see him in 3 parts of his life. We see him from the time he's a young kid to when he's a teenager to when he's an adult. A young gay black man who has to deal with this throughout his entire life, and how he's being treated, also dealing with poverty and how people get by in the black community. There's so many issues being tackled in this movie, but if you just look at it from our lead character's perspective, you know, being a black gay man in this community is very hard. And obviously the other character, who was also gay in this movie, and we see them when they meet up at later in life, you know, he basically shunned him aside because he was afraid. It's something that a lot of people have to deal with. They have to hide their sexuality because of how they're going to be perceived by other people, not just people around them, but by the rest of the world. And to be a black man too, it's dealing with so many different issues. It's a fantastic film. It definitely deserved to be the Best Picture winner. I probably enjoy La La Land more. I've said it many times that that's my favorite musical of all time. Not a big musical guy, but this is the kind of movie that should win Best Picture because it's dealing with so many issues, and not to mention a beautifully shot film. My God, I think about the wraparound shot in the car where you just do a full 360 with the camera in the car. It's so well done. Absolutely check out Moonlight. Deserve that Best Picture winner. And again, issues that we still deal with to this very day. Next up is They Live, John Carpenter's They Live, starring Roddy Piper and, of course, Keith David. This is another movie that's dealing with class and the powers that be, manipulation, how we're being manipulated by the media, all things that John Carpenter has tackled in many of his movies, but he wraps it up in a nice 80s action sci-fi classic with one of the greatest and most ridiculous fight scenes of all time. I mean, why else would you hire Roddy Piper than to have a fight scene like that? I mean, the guy was a professional wrestler, and this is obviously his best acting performance. I'm just here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, but I'm all out of bubblegum. The sunglasses reveal to us all of these aliens that are around us, all the upper class, all the rich people, all the controlling powers. They're all actually aliens, and, that's always kind of, people who are above us, the rich, the controlling class, they're not actually aliens. Well, maybe they are, we don't know for sure, but, they are so out of touch with the rest of us, they feel like aliens, and they're the ones making all the decisions, they're the ones trying to sell you a product all the time. That's why when you look and you see obey, because that's what they want. Again, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, like with Fight Club, and, all the stuff that we buy. They want you to buy that stuff. It gets you locked in the system for your entire life. And They Live is tackling all that. And again, it's such an entertaining film that you kind of forget about what the message of the movie is that, we can eventually rise up and take over because we are the majority. They're the minority. They bring this up in a more recent film, a comedy film. Again, something that, the tone of the movie is very lighthearted, but in the movie Good Fortune, that's a comedy film, and it's a very funny, lighthearted, fluffy comedy film, but it's dealing with how we are the separation of classes and how the rich class, how the upper class can control us. And this movie's tackling that while also making them be aliens, be very funny, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. But also what they're talking about, the message of the movie, is still very important to this very day. Next up, District 9, and one thing here in the United States, and I know this is becoming a worldwide issue, but I don't live in anywhere else but the United States, is immigration. And District 9 is capturing that full stop, and this one actually takes place in Africa, so, they're capturing their own immigration issues on screen. Directed by Neil Blomkamp, what happens when aliens come to Earth? Well, of course, we round them up and we put them in their own, little city, their own little area where they're separated from everyone else. We control them. We don't let them, we keep them in poverty. This is all stuff we're dealing with here in the United States now as they're rounding up immigrants, illegal immigrants, so they say. They're rounding up all these illegal immigrants, all these criminals, and they're putting them in these little disgusting cages and prisons, not getting due process. And that's what this movie's trying to show you, is literally now they're aliens. We call them illegal aliens. They're literally aliens in this movie. And then, of course, it becomes what happens when they rise up and get their revenge. One guy, unfortunately, gets the black goo on him, and that ends up making him one of them, so he can actually see how these aliens have been treated by him and so many other people. So it's really, you got to learn your lesson. You got to take your medicine. And that's all what this movie's trying to explore. And I love it for that because, again, most people will go into this and be like, this is a great sci-fi action film. I went and saw this when I was in high school, and I got the message then, but when you watch this now, and with everything going on in the world right now, and especially here in the United States, this movie does really resonate and still stands the test of time. Now, I can highly recommend the movie if you haven't seen it. It does have a pretty good 4K Blu-ray. Maybe not up to the quality of other films on this list, it doesn't get the appreciation from the Academy, but the social issues that this movie is trying to tackle really do ring true today.
Watch out, mother...
And at number 4, I got Boys in the Hood, directed by John Singleton, and I believe this is still his best film. I mean, the cast is stacked. Lawrence Fishburne is the most underappreciated actor of all time. I will die on that hill. He should have won an Academy Award for this movie as Furious Styles. I don't understand why he wasn't even nominated for Best Supporting Actor. It makes absolutely zero sense to me. Not only should he have been nominated that year, but he should have won. And, of course, this is where Ice Cube really got his break in acting. Cuba Gooding Jr. is fantastic in this movie. He would end up winning an Academy Award for Jerry Maguire, but everyone is so good in this movie, and it's dealing with what happens in the hood, obviously, boys in the hood, and how those people, fight their whole lives to get out. When Cuba Gooding's brother is trying to become a football player, that's his way out. And then, of course, it's tragic what ends up happening to him, where he gets shot and killed and never really gets to escape the hood. That happens so many times, and, this movie came out a few years after the film Colors, which is more exploring it from the cop side, and that movie's a little bit more racist in comparison to this movie, showing you what these people have to go through in their day-to-day lives, why people turn to selling drugs, why people get violent, because the whole system is stacked against them. And that's something that Furious Styles lays out for the kids in one of the best scenes in the movie, as he's explaining gentrification and how black businesses are important so that our people feel comfortable going to these businesses. Why do the white people or other people still get to have businesses in our cities, because they're eventually going to gentrify it, raise the prices of these houses, something that Candyman deals with as well. I almost put Candyman on the list because that's something that really tackles gentrification as well. A lot of social issues in the movies. Candyman, that's why that's my favorite horror film of all time. But I just felt like stacked up against these other 9 films, there's just more for this movie to say than just what Candyman is trying to say. So that's why I have Boys in the Hood this high on the list. But again, you can watch this movie. There's other movies that came out around this time, like South Central, like Menace to Society, that are tackling similar issues. But I still believe that Boys in the Hood is by far the best of those movies. And at number 3, I have another Sidney Lumet movie. He just loved to make movies about social issues. I mean, you could have put Serpico on the list as well, dealing with corruption in the police department, another thing that we have to always deal with now in 2026. But hey, I'm picking Network because it's the manipulation of the media, and it also has one of the best scenes of all time, which really explains, and I mean, I was just talking about this, it still stands up, where Ned Beatty is explaining to the Peter Finch character, Peter Finch, who actually won an Academy Award for this movie after he'd already passed away. So that's, that, because this movie didn't win Best Picture. It actually came out the same year as All the President's Men and Rocky. Rocky won Best Picture that year, but I would think Network is the best of those films because the social issues that it's talking about, also Robert Duvall, who just passed away, is fantastic. I mean, this cast is stacked. I don't want to get too much into the film. I'm eventually going to do a 4K Blu-ray review for this because I love this movie. But it's dealing with the manipulation of the media. It's dealing with who are actually the controlling powers, where he says, there are no countries anymore. There's just Exxon, AT&T, and just lays out all of these global companies, these corporations, oil companies, all of these kinds of companies are the controlling things of the world. They are the ones in power. The countries don't have the power, and we know this because all of those corporations back your politicians. All the people who run for Congress, the president, they're in the back pocket of all these corporations. If you believe that the corporations don't have control, what do you think? They're just going to give money for no reason? Because they truly believe in this politician? No. They want things to work out for them. That's how they stay in power. That's how they're always in charge. That's how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's all laid out for you in that one speech from the 1970s that still rings true to this very day. But of course, the Peter Finch character, when he finally stands up, where I can't take it anymore. One of the great scenes with everybody yelling out the window, and obviously they're like, oh, we got to take this guy down, until they see that they can make fucking money off of him, and a struggling news network will do whatever it needs to do to make money, because again, that's what it's all about. It's all about money. It's all about power. It's never about making the regular working class people feel good or get by in life. No, for their lives to be so good, our lives have to be bad. And that's always what still goes on to this very day, because they do manipulate people into believing that those people are the good people. They're not the good people. They're terrible people, because there is more than enough for everybody to go around. But unfortunately, human beings, human nature, greed is always in the driver's seat, selfishness, these are all human flaws, and we can just see how they manipulate us. They manipulate us through media, they manipulate us through religion. It's something that's been going on forever, and this movie is trying to show you that, and I still think this movie holds up so well, and that's why I think this movie should have won Best Picture.
Philadelphia.
Next up on the list, I got Philadelphia, directed by Jonathan Demme. This one, Tom Hanks, his first Academy Award. He would win 2 in a row. This and Forrest Gump in back-to-back years. Jonathan Demme caught a lot of shit, caught a lot of flack for what happened in Silence of the Lambs and how he treated a transgender person. He made sure that Buffalo Bill was a transgender character, and he caught all the shit for that. And I never understood why, because he didn't write the book that it's based on, and he didn't write the screenplay. He was just a director. And it just goes to show people's knowledge and how far they're actually willing to do the research. And when people get together, it goes all the way back to a Men in Black quote, A
person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
It's really unfortunate, and that's kind of what happened to Jonathan Demme. So he almost had, to make it up to that community, because he wasn't prejudiced against the LGBTQ plus community, but they felt that way. So he made Philadelphia, which is tackling the issue of AIDS and homosexuality and how that was perceived. If you go back to the 1980s, I don't know how many young viewers are around, but AIDS was like something at the forefront, and people became prejudiced. They didn't understand like what AIDS was. They were afraid of people with AIDS, not realizing how the disease was actually transmitted. Most people just saw it as a gay disease. So like if somebody had it, they perceived them to be a homosexual human being, even if they weren't. They didn't understand that it could be passed just through blood transfusions. So kids were not allowed in school when they had AIDS, when all they were getting was blood transfusions. And even gay people had to deal with that. They had to deal with being like considered like dirty, disgusting people for no good reason. They're good people, and this movie was trying to show you that a man lost his job because he had AIDS, because he was a gay man. The Jason Robards character is tackling all that. He's such a piece of shit human. Like, he says all this nice stuff to Andy, and then behind closed doors, he's talking shit, and even one of the lawyers like dares to raise up and say, well, is that why we actually did fire him? He can't rap. He's like, no, of course that's why they fired him. Denzel Washington's character plays a lawyer as well, and he's trying to prove, this is a black man trying to prove like, yeah, this prejudice does exist. He even had his own prejudices about gay men. We see that scene in the supermarket. He has to overcome that as well and do what's right, and that's the whole point, showing us what is the right thing to do in these situations. And to tackle something like AIDS and the gay community in this film, I still think it's actually one of my all-time favorite films. I love this movie. I saw it in health class for the first time when I was like in 7th grade, and another movie like this and the movie Selena, very different films, but like same year. Trying not to cry in class is always very tough when you see something like this, because the scene where Andy passes away is really, really tough, and you see how the Denzel Washington character has learned to trust Andy. He takes his mask down for him. At the beginning he's very scared, like when he's in the office, because that's how a lot of people felt. They thought that they were going to catch AIDS that way because they weren't doing their own research. They're just going by what they heard. You want to talk about the manipulation of media? That's always where it goes. You have to do your own research, and this movie is trying to tackle that for you. And this movie is one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. I absolutely love Philadelphia. Jonathan Demme went back to back with Silence of the Lambs and Philadelphia, and both of those movies are fantastic. What a run. And of course, Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington are awesome as well. So check out Philadelphia if you've never seen it.
Always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
And at number 1, I think this one was a little bit obvious, but Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. Spike Lee has always been tackling social issues in most of his films. Inside Man is like really the one film where he's going to like, hey, I'm just going to make a bank robbery film. But you know what? Even in that movie, he's still dealing with prejudice and everything like that. But in this movie, it's one hot day. I mean, one of the hottest days on record. Ernest Dickerson, who shot this movie, he's painting buildings red. He makes sure to get across to you, it's fucking hot outside. And when it gets hot outside, like we talked about at the very beginning of this list in 12 Angry Men, people get mad. And all that stuff that's like harboring underneath the surface, it bubbles to the top. Just like, when you're boiling a pot of water, what do all the bubbles do? They bubble to the top because it's fucking hot. So it's so hot. Now, all this stuff that's been there, lying there, all the racial issues in the area, Danny Aiello and his sons own a pizza place in a black neighborhood. And of course, Giancarlo Esposito's character, bugging out, but he sees that there's no black people on the wall. He lives in a black town. Why are there no black people on the wall? Well, it's my pizzeria. It's my pizzeria. When you open up a pizzeria, you can hang whatever you want on the wall, he says, which, I guess I kind of get, but still, I understand where bugging out is coming from. You can look at it from all sides. You can also look at the Koreans and how they're being treated. So it's not just dealing with black versus white, anything like that. It's tackling racial issues in this one area, and, you can look at it expanded out to the entire country or the entire world. We all occupy this planet together. But yet there's these underlying prejudices that are always there, and why people feel a certain way about a other race, even though it's just, they're all human beings. We're all human beings. If an alien ever attacked this planet, if aliens ever attack this planet, what we're all gonna have to do? We're all gonna have to, team up against them, because unfortunately now we just fight with each other over bullshit like the color of our skin, our sexual orientation, where we came from. We're always fighting about that dumb shit, and it's really frustrating because we're all human beings and we should all care about each other. In this movie, it's asking what is the right thing. He never tells you at the very end. It's really up to you how you perceive the movie. That's why it's such a well-crafted film. Spike Lee might not be the greatest actor, but he's in the lead role in this movie. He does a fantastic job. Radio Raheem, you're watching the movie, you can be a little bit frustrated with how, he's treating Sal, and you can understand why Sal fucking flips out, but then Sal crosses a line Did he deserve to get his pizzeria destroyed? It's really up to you. That question is on you, the viewer. He's asking you, Spike Lee, to judge for yourself. Like, what do you think is right? But remember, the mayor always says, do the right thing. So Do the Right Thing was going to always be number one for me. It was the first film that popped in my head. Absolutely see it if you never have. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a fun one, but a hard one to tackle. I really did enjoy this one. So thank you, Mr. Smelly Potato, for recommending I do this video for you. And I always want to hear from you guys down in the comment section. What do you believe are the top 10 films that are examining social issues? Leave those in the comment section below. And then, while you guys are down there, why don't you throw this video a like? Maybe share the video. That would really help me out. Subscribe to the channel. We have channel membership, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel, like John Doe Juggalo, Ben Rondo, and Harvey Scott, you can do that. Or you can even jump it up to the director's tier, like Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, Nicholas Head, Stone Gasman, and Uncle V, and you can have your own choice review each and every single month if you choose. Or you can even bump it up to the channel bankroll members and have your own choice review and have your own choice video like this every other month, like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, guys, if you have no money to throw my way, I don't mind at all. I just hope you guys enjoyed this video. And don't forget, guys, the Let's Talk Movies podcast is over on its own YouTube channel now. I'd appreciate it if you guys went over there and subscribed as well. But as always, no pressure at all. I just hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.